little cat ran up the ladder, but Mr. Pine did not see her. Mr. Pine came down the ladder, down on the little cat's foot. Meow. Down came the cat. Down came the brushes. Down came the ladder. Down came the paint. Down came Mr. Pine. Uh-oh. Pow. Excuse me. I coughed into my elbow. Excuse me again. That's what we need to do, right? Cough into our elbows. Now Mr. Pine had purple grass, a purple cat, a purple dog, a purple hat, and a purple nose. Wow. There I go again. Everything's purple. Or I cough away. Now I have to get more purple paint, said Mr. Pine. Up the ladder he went. Squish, squish. Mr. Pine painted and painted until the house was all purple. Look at his house. Look how close together those houses are. It kind of reminds me of JT and Avon's house. Their house isn't purple, but it's close together like the houses in their neighborhood. Anyway, so look, the cat's purple, the dog's purple, parts of Mr. Pine's clothes, his hands are purple, but he got the job done, right? So let's see what happens. Everybody on Vine Street came to look at Mr. Pine's purple house. No one had ever seen a purple house before. What a nice purple, said Mrs. Gray. I will paint my house. What a pretty purple house, said Mr. Gold. I will paint my house. What a very pretty purple house, said Mrs. Green. I will paint my house too. Oh. You know what first time I read this, I really, really thought that everyone was going to paint their house the same color as Mr. Pine. But let's see what happens. Oh, no, 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 said Mr. Pine. Not 50 purple houses, all in a line on Vine Street. But I will paint my house pink, said Mrs. Gray. Yellow for me, said Mrs. Green. Green for me, said Mrs. Brown. I like red, Mrs. White said. And I will keep my house all white, said Mr. Gold. So my guess was wrong. They all want something different, which I think is pretty awesome. He inspired them. That's an interesting word to think about, inspired. He kind of gave them, if you want to say permission, or gave them an idea, a new way of looking at things, didn't he? Anyway, now there are 50 houses on Vine Street. There are red houses and green houses and brown houses. There are yellow and pink houses, and there are some white houses too. But there is just one purple house on Pine Street, and that is Mr. Pine's purple house. The end. So that story, Mr. Pine's Purple House, was one of my favorite stories when I was little and I was first learning how to read. And I read this book and I really liked it because I really thought that that was cool, that people could have lots of different ideas about colors and trees and bushes and all different things in life. So I really hope that you enjoyed the story as much as I enjoy the story. I'm going to turn it to the back cover because I really like to even look at the back cover of picture books. And there's a picture of Mr. Pine. He's driving his truck. It looks like his dog is in there. I don't see the cat, but I wonder where he's off to. Remember, he paints signs, so maybe he's off to a job. Wonder what kind of signs he paints. There are other books by this author, and I can tell you, and maybe you can look for them in your library once it's open. And I know I've read them before, but other books starring Mr. Pine are Mr. Pine's Mixed Up Signs, so maybe that's where he's going next to do his mixed up signs. Mr. Pine's Purple House, which is the one we just read. Mrs. Pine Takes a Trip. So there's a Mrs. Pine too. We didn't meet her in this story. Paint Me a Picture, Mr. Pine, and Mr. Pine's Storybook. So there's lots of other stories out there with Mr. Pine as the main character. So anyway, I hope you liked the book, and I hope you all have a very wonderful day. And at this time, sometimes it's really good to be able to think about stories and telling people stories, using your imagination, doing art. Anyway, I miss you. I love you. And I just hope you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. See you soon. Bye.